Sixth, bias from Pavlovian association, misconstruing past correlation as a reliable basis for decision making. I never took a course in psychology or economics either, for that matter, but I did learn about Pavlov in high school biology, and the way they taught it, so the dog salivated when the bell rang. So what? Nobody made the least effort to tie that to the wide world. Well, the truth of the matter is that Pavlovian association is an enormously powerful psychological force in the daily life of all of us. And indeed, in economics, we wouldn't have money without the role of so-called secondary reinforcement, which is a pure psychological phenomenon demonstrated in the laboratory. Practically, I'd say 3/4 of advertising works on pure Pavlov. I mean, think how pure association works. Take Coca-Cola Company, where we're the biggest shareholder. They want to be associated with every wonderful image. Heroics in the Olympics, wonderful music, you name it. They don't want to be associated with presidents' funerals and so forth. When have you seen a Coca-Cola ad? And the association really works. And all these psychological tendencies work largely or entirely on a subconscious level, which makes them very insidious. Then you've got Persian messenger syndrome. The Persians really did kill the messenger who brought the bad news. You think that is dead? I mean, you should have seen Bill Paley in his last 20 years. He didn't hear one damn thing he didn't want to hear. People knew that it was bad for the messenger to bring Bill Paley things he didn't want to hear. Well, that means that the leader gets in a cocoon of unreality. It's a great big enterprise, and boy, did he make some dumb decisions in the last 20 years. And no, Persian messenger syndrome is alive and well. When I saw some years ago Arco and Exxon arguing over a few hundred millions of ambiguity in their North Slope treaties before a Superior Court judge in Texas with armies of lawyers and experts on each side, now, this is a Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Two engineering-style companies can't resolve some ambiguity without spending tens of millions of dollars in some Texas Superior Court. In my opinion, what happens is that nobody wants to bring the bad news to the executives up the line. That here's a few $100 million you thought you had that you don't. And it's much safer to act like the Persian messenger who goes away to hide rather than bring home the news of the battle lost. Talking about economics, you get a very interesting phenomenon that I've seen over and over again in a long life. You've got two products. Suppose they're complex technical product. Now you think under the laws of economics that if product A costs X, if product Y costs X minus something, it will sell better than if it sells at X plus something. But that's not so. In many cases, when you raise the price of the alternative product, it'll get a larger market share than it would when you make it lower than your competitor's product. That's because the bell, a Pavlovian bell, I mean, ordinarily there's a correlation between price and value. You have an information inefficiency. And so when you raise the price, the sales go up relative to your competitor. That happens again and again and again. It's a pure Pavlovian phenomenon. And you can say, well, the economists have figured this sort of thing out when they started talking about information inefficiencies. But that was fairly late in economics that they found such an obvious thing. And of course, most of them don't ask what causes the information inefficiencies. Well, one of the things that causes it is pure old Pavlov and his dog. Now you've got bias from Skinnerian association, operant conditioning, where you give the dog a reward and pound in the behavior that preceded the dog's getting the award. And of course, Skinner was able to create superstitious pigeons by having rewards come, by accident with certain occurrences. And of course, we all know people who are the human equivalents of superstitious pigeons. That's a very powerful phenomenon. And of course, operant conditioning really works. I mean, the people in the center who think that operant conditioning is important are very much right. It's just that Skinner overdid it a little. where you see in business just perfectly horrible results from psychologically rooted tendencies is in accounting. If you take Westinghouse, which blew what, $2 or $3 billion pre-tax at least, loaning developers to build hotels and virtually 100% loans. Now you say any idiot knows that there's one thing you don't like, it's a developer, and another you don't like, it's a hotel. And to make 100% loan to a developer who's going to build a hotel, but this guy, he probably was an engineer or something, and he didn't take psychology any more than I did, and he got out there in the hands of these slick salesmen operating under their version of incentive cost bias, where any damn way of getting Westinghouse to do it was considered normal business, and they just blew it. That would never have been possible if the accounting system hadn't been such that for the initial phase of every transaction, it showed wonderful financial results. So people who have loose accounting standards are just inviting perfectly horrible behavior in other people. And it's a sin. It's an absolute sin. If you carried bushel baskets full of money through the ghetto and made it easy to steal, that would be a considerable human sin, because you'd be causing a lot of bad behavior, and the bad behavior would spread. Similarly, an institution that gets sloppy accounting commits a real human sin, and it's also a dumb way to do business, as Westinghouse has so wonderfully proved. Oddly enough, nobody mentions, at least nobody I've seen, what happened with Joe Jett and Kidder Peabody. The truth of the matter is the accounting system was such that by punching a few buttons, the Joe Jetts of the world could show profits, and profits that showed up in things that resulted in rewards and esteem and every other thing that human being. Well, the Joe Jetts are always with us, and they're not really to blame, in my judgment at least. But that bastard who created that foolish accounting system, who, so far as I know, has not been flayed alive, ought to be